When a family enters a public crisis, every person tends to take on a role. Someone becomes the emotional center. Someone becomes the protector. Someone becomes the fixer. Someone becomes the spokesperson. Someone becomes the person who refuses to let the world see them break. In the JonBenet Ramsey case, John Ramsey's public role was often read through authority: businessman, father, decision-maker, protector, and later a father living inside a decades-long unsolved case. But authority is easy to misread. A controlled person can be seen as cold. A practical person can be seen as hiding. A person who speaks carefully can be called rehearsed. A private person can be treated as suspicious simply because they do not grieve in public the way others expect. Instead, we are asking a more careful question. What does a provider-protector identity look like when the one thing it cannot protect is the thing that mattered most? The first Enneagram lens for John's public role is Type 3, the achiever. The Type 3 core motivation is not simply success. It is the need to feel valuable through capability. The survival rule sounds like, I have to be effective. I have to solve problems. I have to become someone people can rely on. At its healthiest, this creates drive, resilience, leadership, and the ability to act in a crisis. But its shadow can be over-identifying with competence. When a Type 3-like person cannot solve a problem, cannot protect their image, or cannot make the world return to order, they may become even more controlled. Not because they do not feel, because they feel too much to let the feeling take over. This is the public misunderstanding around many high-functioning people. They do not always look devastated in the way others expect. They may become logistical. They may focus on the next step. They may speak in terms of facts, action, and strategy. Now add a Type 8-like secondary style, the challenger or protector. Type 8 energy is built around strength, autonomy, and refusing to be controlled by others. The core rule is, if I am vulnerable, I may be harmed, so I will be strong first. At its healthiest, that becomes courage and fierce protection. Under stress, it can become defensiveness, intensity, resistance to outside authority, and a tendency to see questioning as an attack. Think about the environment of an unsolved homicide investigation. Police questions, media scrutiny, legal pressure, strangers making accusations, a family reputation being judged in public. A Type 8-like response may not be quiet compliance. It may be resistance. It may be the need to regain control of a situation that feels completely uncontrollable. A protective or forceful public posture cannot tell us who committed a crime. It can only tell us that pressure often activates a person's most deeply held survival strategy. The third layer is Type 5 energy, containment. Type 5 coping often says, I need distance, information, privacy, and internal control before I can deal with this. This is where the provider-protector can look especially unreadable. They may become factual when the room is emotional. They may retreat into planning when the room wants connection. They may protect private information because privacy itself begins to feel like the last remaining boundary. The light side is steadiness. The shadow side is isolation. And when the public is watching, isolation can be interpreted as concealment. But those are not the same thing. The roles a person occupies before a crisis shape how they meet the crisis. A provider learns to solve. A leader learns to decide. A business person learns to manage risk. A father may feel responsible for physical and emotional protection. When catastrophe enters that kind of person's life, the internal injury can be profound. I was supposed to keep my family safe, and I could not. That kind of wound can create several outward responses. Some people collapse. Some people rage. Some become private. Some become hyper-focused on answers, evidence, strategy, and action. The Enneagram lens suggests that the person's public mask may become even more rigid when their inner role has been shattered. The provider becomes more controlled, the protector becomes more guarded, the thinker becomes more private. That is not an explanation for the crime. It is a possible explanation for why observers should not mistake role-based coping for a direct window into a person's inner life. Under public threat, families often become fortresses. The father may become the protector, the mother may become the emotional center, the child may become the symbol, the sibling may become the mystery the public tries to decode. Inside that fortress, loyalty becomes complicated. Loyalty can be love. Loyalty can be self-protection. Loyalty can be a reaction to feeling misrepresented. Loyalty can be a way to survive a world that feels hostile. It should never be treated as automatic proof of any theory. The Enneagram can help audiences understand the emotional logic of a family under pressure, but it cannot replace evidence. John Ramsey's public arc is, in part, the arc of a person attached to action inside a situation that has resisted resolution. An unsolved homicide does not give a provider-protector personality a clean ending. There is no completed task, no restored order, no answer that puts the family back together. For a Type 3 like Core, that can be agonizing because effectiveness is part of survival. For a Type 8 like style, it can be agonizing because strength cannot defeat uncertainty. For a Type 5 like defense, it can create a deeper need to protect privacy and manage information. Again, these are interpretive possibilities, not claims about the private mind of John Ramsey, but they give viewers a more mature way to understand why someone might look controlled, strategic, resistant, or emotionally constrained without treating those behaviors as a verdict. The public often believes that visible emotion equals honesty and control equals concealment. But people use control for many reasons: to keep working, to keep parenting, to avoid frightening other people, to survive humiliation, to hold together a self-image that has been shattered, to create a small sense of order inside chaos. Control can become a prison, but it is not proof of criminality. The real question for any person who relies on control is, what happens when strength becomes the only emotion you allow yourself to show? Do you recognize the provider-protector role in yourself? Do you become more productive when you are in pain? Do you try to solve feelings instead of feeling them? Do you become guarded when people question you? Do you confuse being strong with never needing comfort? The healthiest version of the provider is not the person who never breaks. It is the person who can be capable and vulnerable, protective and open, strategic and emotionally honest. That is the deeper Enneagram lesson. Your survival strategy may have helped you once, but it should not become the only way you know how to live.